Hello guys, Charles here and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about a device which is less commonly used by guitarists, and that is sus chords and, more importantly, more specifically today, sus arpeggios. Now, sus arpeggios are used by piano players in particular effortlessly. They just roll them up and down the piano just as easy as major and minor chords. The same's true of saxophone players and brass players. It's just yet another arpeggio for them, just as easy. On the guitar, however, because we're tuned in fourths, they can be a little bit awkward. So let's talk about first of all what sus chords are, how to play them, and then we'll break down some arpeggios through the CAGED system. So sus is short for suspended or suspension, and what this means traditionally is that a note from the previous chord is hung over, is held on through into the new chord. However, for our purposes as guitarists and reading jazz charts, all we really need to know for suspended chords is replace the third with this note. And there's two types of suspended chord. There's sus4 and sus2. So it means replace the third with the 4 or replace the third with the 2. Let's look at a really simple example. So if I take my C cowboy chord down here, I'm just playing the middle 4 strings here. So I'm going to take my E note here on the D string and I can swap it out for the 4. You've probably done this quite a lot before. I can have my little finger there on the 3rd fret and we get this sound. So that's a C sus4. Now alternatively I could do a C sus2 by playing a 2 instead of the 3rd. Well, in C, D is the 2 and E is the 3rd. So I'm going to replace this E with the note D by just taking my middle finger off, and there's my C sus2. Now watch this though. If I go back to my C sus4 chord, the notes there are C, F and G and another C on the top. Now if I played an F sus2 chord, I would have F, G, C and F. Exactly the same notes. So this is the important thing that I want you to understand about the chord voicings. A sus4 chord is the same as a sus2 chord on the 4th degree. So a sus4 chord on C is the same notes as a sus2 chord on F, F being the 4th degree of C. So another way to think about that is whichever note you have to add in order to make this a sus4, you've also created that note's sus2 chord. So experiment with all the voicings you know, swapping the 3rd degree out for the 2nd or the 4th, and you'll find some lovely voicings. It's one of those things where it's more useful for you just to understand how to do it than it is for me to give you a list of voicings and you to go away and learn them. It's better to understand how to create them for yourself, and you'll better know how to apply these. Now let's move on to arpeggios. So playing these sus chord arpeggios is quite challenging because they have to roll from one fret on one string to the same fret on the next string very often. Because our guitar is tuned in fourths, we have to stay on the same fret as we transition string, which is just a difficult thing to do accurately, these finger rolls. So we're not aiming for lightning speed here, although you will hear guys like Frank Gambale and Tim Miller and many other of these really elite players, Alan Holdsworth for example. They've really mastered the use of these sus arpeggios. And an up-and-coming player who's really great that you might want to check out using these sus sounds is Daniel Weiss. He's just released an album which is well worth checking out. It's really, really great playing on there, and his chops really lend themselves nicely to these sus sounds. He uses those quite a lot in his YouTube demonstrations as well, so check out Daniel. Okay, so let's learn these through the caged position. So let's start by thinking in terms of C sus4. Remember, C sus4 is going to be the same as F sus2. So this first arpeggio is both. So I'm thinking C position, I'm thinking a C chord here, and I'm just staying within that position playing the notes F, G, C. So that was C sus4 in the C position. It was also F sus2 in an E position, in an E chord, this sort of shape. Next up, A position. So again, C sus4 in the A position. G position. E position. D position. And back to C position up at the top end of the guitar. So there you have it, all 5 caged positions there. You can interpret them as being C sus4, that's the way I was thinking of them as I was playing them there, but they were also all F sus2. Now this is the great thing about sus chords, you only need to learn one and you can use it in 2 different ways. So it really lends itself nicely to multiple different applications. However, the actual playing of it is quite tricky. I certainly don't have these down at the same speed as I've got my major and minor and dominant chord types down. Now notice that I was just trying to focus there on playing each note as nice and cleanly as possible. The issue with moving from one string to the next is that there's potential for a lot of string noise. There's also potential for bleeding of one note over the next, and we want to aim to get one clear note at a time as smoothly as possible. So that's all I'm aiming for when I'm going through these demonstrations, is trying to get each note as clear as possible and to try and get some sort of sense of phrase through the example. I don't know how effectively I achieved that, but that's what I'm thinking about anyway. If you did find this useful and you're going to practice some sus chords this week, then please do give this video a like, subscribe, ding that notification bell, and share with any of your friends who need this vocabulary in their playing. And as always, I hope you're all doing very well, getting plenty of practice in, and I very much look forward to seeing you in the next one. Cheers!
Roll up, let me embed a story you'll never forget. A drip, drip, but drowning in debt now. You can't buy your way out, and I heard you find it difficult to